Hi again. Uh, Now I will present something about AI. How can we bring AI into iDempiere to improve the speed of development, and how could we use it for conversational data access? Uh, Before I start, so my name is Diego Ruiz. I am a software engineer. I finished my MBA in the Netherlands some years ago. I'm a senior developer and consultant at BX Service. I'm part of the core team in iDempiere, and currently also I'm the marketing team leader in iDempiere as well. Uh, Today I want to share how we can enhance iDempiere development using AI tools like Copilot, and I want to show a proof of concept on how can we use natural language to query data from the ERP. The proof of concept I created is using LangChain and SQLAgents. I will not go too deep into detail because it will take 2 days to explain the whole thing, but I will give an overview of what's possible, what challenges did I face, what problems did I notice, and so on. So first, starting with Copilot and iDempiere. I have played with Copilot lately. It is now natively supported in the latest Eclipse version. Copilot is a great tool for development. Actually, it can speed up the development. It can suggest code base. It can help creating unit tests. The unit test that we are now creating for the REST API was 90% done by Copilot, but you always have to refine some things and check and here and there, but it takes a lot of time. And this is very important because it's what Murilo was talking about, the learn curve in iDempiere to code. It's really steep. It's not easy to start coding with iDempiere, but Copilot helps people with that and helps newbies with that because it suggests code based on the context file. So you can ask, for example, here, you can ask, I will come back here, you can ask Copilot to write a callout. This is a really bad example, but it's just for educational purposes. Write a callout that sets the quantity to 0 when the product is not purchased. And I don't know if you can see the code. If not, the slides are on the link I sent. But if you check, the code is actually quite good. And this is something that takes a lot of time to learn to do in iDempiere. And when you just ask a pilot, a new guy coming to the project, and he writes that, and the code is already there, this can ease the development, the contribution pain. Of course, it has its limitations, and I will talk about this later because this is not perfect. It doesn't completely understand the iDempiere architecture or business logic, so you need to be really careful of how you use it and what you use. And it's important to remember that every prompt, every code, everything you do is sent to the cloud. So if you are dealing with sensitive data from customers and all of that, because you can use this to write SQL queries and all of that, if you have sensitive data, it is being sent to the cloud, and I don't fully trust Microsoft that they won't do strange things with the data. So you have to have that in mind when you're using it. When I talk about limitations, this is another example. I asked Copilot to write an event handler that sets the business partner description after saving. I use these two examples because I think callouts and event handlers are the most common customizations in any implementation. They are really useful. And when you see the code, it initializes the event handler. It does a lot of good things and helps new developers code faster. But when you dig deeper, when you check deeper into that, you see some errors. For example, it registers the event handler PO after save. That event handler doesn't exist. So when you try to run it in Eclipse, it will throw an error because that's not existing. When you want to save, you have to use before change or after save or after change. That one is easy to catch because Eclipse will show the error in red. But the one before, the code that it suggested is saving the business partner that it is updating. So when you do that, if you ever have done that with event handlers, when you save the same object that is triggering the event handler, you get an infinite loop because it saves and it calls again the after change, and it saves and it calls again. So, and that's something that Eclipse doesn't catch. So those things, you have to be really careful with those kind of with the code that Copilot generates. You have to check, you have to validate, because if you use it in production, you can run into memory leak problems and so on. Another example, because it can also help writing SQL queries. So let's say you have a customer that wants to add a parameter in an info window to identify which orders don't have an associated shipments, with which close orders or process orders don't have a shipment. So if you ask Copilot, he will throw you this nice SQL to add the info window column. And when you see it at first, you think, well, that's nice, it works because it's checking that there's a C order ID reference in the shipment and it's connected. It looks nice. But that's when I say that you need a bit of iDempiere knowledge for that, because once you check further, you know that when you have partial shipments or consolidated shipments, they can be, I think Norbert did a development, Norbert's team did a development, that when you have consolidated shipments or partial shipments, the order ID is deleted from the element. So that relationship is broken. So it will look like this order didn't ship, but it actually shipped, but with multiple shipments. So then a developer, an iDempiere developer, will create a query like this. Like it checks line per line that every line is shipped. But Copilot suggests something that might be useful, but then you get into the trouble because the customer is saying, okay, I didn't ship this and ships again, but it was already shipped. So that's what I mean. You always have to validate what information comes from it, because the iDempiere knowledge is not there. It's very tricky. That was from Copilot. This is from that was using AI from a developer perspective. It can help. It makes our job faster, easier, but we have to be really careful on how we do it and always validate what it shows you or it suggests. Now I will talk about querying iDempiere data using natural language. I did this just as an experiment. I wanted to try it just for fun. And the idea was, how can I get data with natural language? I want to know what are my top customers without having to write a SQL query or configuring a full BI system. I just want to write a question and I want to get an answer. That was the goal. This is the difference between LangChain and SQLAgents. I will go through it really fast. LangChain is more powerful. It lets you create multi-step reasoning chains, and it has plugins, but it's more, you have to do more. SQLAgents is more focused. It's like one tool that can do one and only one thing really good. That's SQLAgent, but it's not so flexible because you don't have you don't have this control as a developer. With LangChain, you can control the flow. With SQL agents, you throw what you want, and then it's a black box, and then you see a result. You cannot really control what's happening inside. Both are really useful, and it depends on what kind of need or use case you want to cover. Yeah, as I said, important here is SQL agents require less development, but LangChain is more complete, is more flexible, is more, you can solve more complex issues. This is the architecture, this is how it works. You ask a question, then the large language model processes it and converts it to a query. Then you execute the query in the database. With the result from the database, you give that result to the LLM again, and it converts it to a natural language response. That's what both technologies do, and then you can optionally have a SQL agent that takes care of that. One advantage, and I will say why I say it in quotes, from the SQL agent is that it can recover from errors. When you use LangChain and the query is not valid or is wrongly formatted, it just says failed, I cannot get data, and it stops. The SQL agent tries to recover from the error. So it says it stops, so it tries another way. This column doesn't exist, so it tries again. So it's a bit more powerful. Before I show this, I will show a video because I did all of this running locally in my PC where I work. If I try to do that here, it will take hours, or I don't think my laptop can handle like AI models, to be honest. So I did it locally. I used Llama and DeepSeek just to try both. Both work fine. Llama was faster, actually. DeepSeek tends to be more verbose and it talks a lot, so it takes a lot of time. And now I will show a video of what it can do. I hope everyone can see it. Here is just asking a question. What are my top products? And then it says, okay, my top products are this, and this, and the quantity sold were this, and this, and this. And okay, list top customers, and then it says, okay, CMW Construction, so we are not familiar with the garden. And you can keep asking questions, and it just throws a natural response, like if you were talking to the CEO or to the guy that really knows what's happening. You can format that with HTML. You can tell the LLM, give me a response using HTML or whatever format you want. Yeah, I hope everyone can see, but that's the whole idea of what I wanted. I ask about customers, products, vendors, and so on.
Sorry, Diego. What is the URL for this chatbot here?
It comes in the next.
Oh, okay.
But as I say, it's just a proof of concept that I don't use it in production, please. It worked pretty well. Here's if you scan this QR code, you can see the GitHub repository. Everything is there. It's also on the slides I showed. What it does is iDempiere has a form and a process. I created a process because I also want to use it, or my idea actually is not to have a form inside iDempiere, but to have a React Angular front end and connect via REST API. So it's actually a process that just responses. iDempiere talks to a Python script because that's how AI works the best, with Python. And Python responds to iDempiere, and then iDempiere keeps just doing back and forth. In the GitHub repository, You can see both the iDempiere code and the Python code. In the Python code, it has an example for LangChain and an example for SQLAgents. It worked quite well, but a problem I face is that, as Murilo said before, we have over 1,000 tables, 1,200, something like that. So when I did it first, I said, this is the database, and it started complaining like, there are cyclical dependencies, this is not normalized, this table is missing this. So before I could start, it was just complaining about the database. And it took a lot of time because it had to read all 1,200. Then I tried another approach, and it was including just the tables that I wanted. So I said I just want sales information, so I want to include C order, CV partner, end product, and that's it. And again, it started complaining because there are a lot of columns that are actually not important for those queries, and there are some cyclical dependencies, and it started complaining again. So what I did at the end was to create views with just the columns that are actually important for these kind of questions. And with those smaller views from orders, from business partners, from products, it worked pretty well. But I have to really tune the data source to be able to make it work. So the first challenge I faced was the schema complexity. It's simply the core database is too big, and the LLM then takes a lot of time trying to analyze it. The second one, as I said, iDempiere data knowledge. At first, I said, give me all the sales orders that I had, and it just did select from C order. So it didn't know that SO transaction means purchase or sales. So it's giving you fake values, fake numbers. So I will show you how I bypass this problem, but you really have to train it. It's not ready out of the box because you really need to have the iDempiere data knowledge. And the last challenge or last problem is the token limits with large schemas. I did it locally, so I could try and error without any problem. But when you connect to OpenAPI, I think right now, like 1,500 words are like 2,000 tokens, something like that. And when you want to, with every LLM, the context is king. If you want it to work, you have to give it context. Without context, they provide really wrong data. They don't know what to answer. So every time you're trying to make the context better, because at the beginning I just say do this and it didn't work. So I had to write an explanation saying, you are a SQL expert and I want you only to respond with a SQL query. Don't explain it, don't mention what you're doing, just give me the SQL query. That takes, and then you have to refine your prompt. You have to say, don't use inserts, only use these tables. Even when I'm telling you just have access to these tables, I have to repeat it in the prompt. So it starts getting bigger and bigger and bigger. So every time you use more tokens and it becomes expensive. You can end up paying $2 per question. So that's really not scalable when you want to continue. That was another thing about the SQLAgents. The SQLAgent, like spoiler alert, I like more the results from the LangChain. The SQLAgent can read the schema, database schema. LangChain cannot read, it can only read data. So the idea with the SQLAgent is that you tell it first read the schema, analyze it, and then when I ask something, pass the schema or give that analysis as a prompt. So when you use a lot of tables, your prompt is quite big all the time. And it starts getting bigger and bigger. If you wanted to make it conversational, LLMs are stateless, so they don't really have context. When you have a chat with ChatGPT and it remembers your name from the first message, it's not that it's learning because LLMs don't learn. It's just that it sends the whole conversation as a context. So every time that the chat gets bigger, it's more tokens, more words, and so it becomes like a snowball. Yep. This is something that one of the main reasons I didn't like SQL agents, and that's a common problem with LLMs. You can see, I hope you can see here. At first, I run it just via console to check what was happening. You can read the human question, and then you can read what the AI is doing. So it tried to query CEO, AD user, and I say, give me the top, which sales agent made the most sales this month. So it tried to query the AD user, but it tried to query a total sales, total amount column. That column doesn't exist in iDempiere. So it says, okay, this column doesn't exist. And then it says, okay, if it doesn't exist, I have to try again. And it tried again, trying to find the user by ID. AD user point ID. That column doesn't exist. That's the primary key column from AD user. So it failed again. But a common problem in LLMs is that they don't know when to not respond. They don't know how to say, I don't know, I couldn't find the answer. They just throw some rubbish. They just start like babbling. So when you see the final answer, it says your top sales agents are John Smith, Mary Johnson, Tom Williams, and we all know those records don't exist in Garden. That's wrong. He's just making up names to answer the question. So hallucination is one of the main problems with the AI, and that's why I didn't like the SQL agent, because you don't have control over that kind of stuff. If it throws random data, the user will just believe it, because you don't have a way to say, okay, it failed, and then it just made up the response. It happened again when I asked, like, what is my, I think, top customer? And it says John Doe, because he bought 10,000 in today. Again, it couldn't figure out the right query, and it just gave a random answer from, you never know where it comes from. Yeah. So at the end, I liked LangChain more because I can control the outcome and decide what to do when the query fails. I can say, if you don't find the query, please do this and this and this. To get reliable results, as I said, I use smaller views. Context is king, and when I say context is king, is you have to give the context in every prompt. In each prompt, you have to give the whole context. So here you have prompt engineering tools like few-shot prompting. Few-shot prompting means you give examples to the AI. You tell it. I will show the code later, but you tell it, if I ask, if the question is find all sales orders, this is the query that you should respond. And then I write the right query. If I ask you to give me the list of all products that I sold, and then I give it the query that I expect as an outcome. So I'm training the AI with my data on each prompt. That's few-shot prompting. That, for me, that was the one that was most useful, because I'm training it with my data. I know what the outcome has to be, and then it kind of understands what I'm expecting. Another tool or chain of thought is similar, but you just give it like how you should think. Yeah. But as I say, every time you make a larger context to get better results, it becomes more expensive, you use more tokens, it gets also slower. Just as a tip, there's a huge source of promptings that is called LangSmith. They have a huge list of prompts that you can use for if you want to use LLMs for SQL queries. They have one for Postgres, one for Oracle, one for MySQL. If you want to use AI for research. They have a prompt that a lot of people have worked on and gives the best results. So it's a really nice tool. And despite all these challenges that I'm mentioning, the results were quite promising. I like the chatbot that I showed. I like the potential it has. I really like it. For simple queries, after some tuning, the results were quite fast. As you could see, it doesn't take a long time to respond. Of course, we then need to consider the security, because LLMs don't care about cross-tenant data. They don't care about sharing sensitive data. They can give you phone numbers of customers and that you don't have access to. So you have to be really careful how you deploy it. It's better if you sandbox it and give role access, like database role access, just to read only, for example, because users can abuse this. Because it's an LLM, it's designed to query data, but you can say create a product with this information, and it can actually create the data because you are not forbidden. I also recommend logging all queries, because then you have control of what's happening. You can see what's being run. You can see if a user is abusing the tool you are giving. LangChain can also call external tools and APIs and run code. So this is also a potential security issue, because you give a user the access to run external query or to create unintended API calls. This can have like several really bad consequences for security. And to mitigate those security holes, as I said, I avoid exposing these tools to untrusted users. I will do this just for users like Thomas, where you can trust what they are doing with the data and they won't abuse it. Running Python in isolated containers like Docker, for example. And never allow dynamic code execution from LLMs without hard filters. Okay? This is taken from the LangChain official documentation. No security technique is perfect, so fine-tuning and good chain design can reduce but never eliminate the odds that an LLM may make a mistake. So we have to use it carefully. I think the potential is big, we all know that. But we have to be really careful with what we do. If we want to use it to create data, we have to be really sure of what we are doing, because it can make a mess. When you use agents, you don't know what's happening. That's the problem. It's a black box, and you really don't know what happened. So you have to try to keep it under control and always validate what is being done by the AI. As a final part, I think AI won't replace developers, at least not yet, and not good ones. But it can. But it can definitely enhance our work. It can make us work faster, be more efficient, and provide results faster. And we have seen how fast those LLMs, AI evolve. So I'm sure in a couple of years, those challenges that I just mentioned won't be there anymore, and there will be more things. But that's the current stage. So AI should be a development complement, but not replace it entirely. Always have, every time you use AI for development or for anything, please just validate what's going on, because the hallucination, it's a huge problem right now. And that will be it from my side. Thank you, everyone.
actually there are some solutions for the problem you have discussed here. Okay, I am also agree with your assessment. Like AI is elusive sometimes, and mostly in when generating the program, especially when you are giving him complex task. It just create just good looking code, but no output. Okay, or it's ignore some of the aspect. But I'm going to address the some of your concerns, correct? So first concern is like the in a prompt, correct? As you do more and more conversation, it grows, correct, and it costs more. But LLM has a one good features like summarizing your prompt. So let's say you have configured like after 1,000 tokens, correct, make summary. So it compress your conversations and it become the shorter. Okay, so that is one good features. Second thing is like the you mentioned like data security issues, correct? But if we are working with PostgreSQL, it has very nice inbuilt features. Like if we do the we go further and improve our application dictionary to utilize more the PostgreSQL features, then we can solve those problems of data security, because like role access features in iDempiere, similar features exist inside PostgreSQL. So if iDempiere users are created as a PostgreSQL users and same roles are replicated in PostgreSQL, then the current login users, if are used for conversations with means for filing that query, then it get only exact those data which it has access. So even record level access also configurable in PostgreSQL. So there are a lot of features, correct? So PostgreSQL is, I think, better tool for better database for AI enabled applications. That is one of these point I want to make here.
Yeah, that's true. That's why I mentioned one of the ways to mitigate it is to really configure all the data access to the database.
Yes.
I will do it like read only at first, but I'm just saying it needs to do that configuration. If you do it without it, you don't know what you're facing.
Yes. And one more important features of PostgreSQL is adding comments for each object. So currently, whenever we are creating columns or tables, we have no documentation in our schema. But PostgreSQL allow us to add the documentation for each object. And if we are making these practices, then whenever you are feeding the schemas to the LLM knows exactly what the C underscore order means, how it works, everything it can retrieve from additional documentation.
Any more questions?
I don't have a question, but an idea. If instead of SQL, we can train to use REST, that would work?
You can,
No, but
it's a bit with ChatGPT, mainly Reka, she will talk about tomorrow. But it's very interesting to me. The UX designer says how AI can help and how easy, and developer says it's very complicated and unsecure. So I'm a bit messed up here now. But and the strange is, it's not answering your question, but what I feel now, because it's the revolution last years is very interesting now, and we spoken about the quite complex solution, but for me it looks like if either the whole system is just database, web UI, REST API, infrastructure, and at the end, what if we create an extra layer like memory of the data can be prompt, and you can ask charts, generates live. You don't need probably Pentaho or don't need other systems, and you can put it into the system. Because many libraries showing this how easy can be do with new libraries like JavaScript, Node.js, anything. I just my analysis, it's not the final, but
another idea. Just want to. Okay.
Okay, we
using ChatGPT, we put the manuals of iDempiere and made a prompt to ask about everything, how to create a business partner, so they say what to do. So another idea is there are already reports in iDempiere that you can give their intelligence as a prompt. So they have already a format data. So you can maybe, for example, invoice transactions. You give invoice transaction report as an input, and that's really limited and is already a pre-processed data that the intelligence just have to analyze. If you say give me the top sales in product, and you give detail and margin, so the intelligence is going to ask you about this formatted context. So that's what I'm doing.
I'm sure you can use better promptings, you can use better data to answer Norbert. It's not that I'm saying it's problematic, but how can I say it? Most of the things that are shown there, when you read carefully about that, you see what a nightmare it can become, because if you are using LLMs to create orders because your customers want to use chat for that, it can be done, and I think we should explore this, because I don't think AI is the future. It is right now, and we have to start thinking about that. It's now, it's happening right now. But if the LLM starts hallucinating and the customer calls you and say, hey, I didn't sell that, and that created a whole, it repeated 5 times the order, now I have problems, people are getting things that they didn't order, and then who are you blaming?
Each system has a small sentences. It's not, we are not responsible. It's very because everything is mostly about the effect. People are making big wow.
I'm saying it's possible. I was just mentioning how careful you need to be when implementing a tool like this. It's just what I want to communicate here.
This is technological approach. We are managers. We want to tell you can do.
You are responsible.
For money.
You don't need to answer John Doe.
The interesting is here, the developers has a big benefit. They understand technology. But the question is it the same time limitation in this year on 25? Yes, because if me or Reka or like managers, for example, as you mentioned, we create the chatbot for iDempiere and upload the full compare book, iDempiere book, and informations. Yes, he answered it's compare, but I was able to generate documentation. And when Reka give me templates, our template, this for tutorial, this, then he was able to do good answer, and probably it's not the best because it must be humanized, but it's usable. So managers and people don't have power with coding, have a benefit probably, because they are looking for the solution in head and available tools. So probably we have a different approach and thinking over the AI nowadays.
A different question. You said that you choose it locally, but also online. You talked about the cost of tokens. What is the difference in practice? The speed difference, and is there a difference in the quality of output?
The models are supposed to be the same, but when you run it locally, all the processing is happening in your local machine. If you run it locally offline, no data is being shared, but yeah, when you use it with your data source, it's okay. When you try to run DeepSeek offline and ask a question, it really hallucinates because it doesn't have the internet data. But for these cases, you can do that. It depends on, do I want it to go to a server, an external server that I don't control? I don't know what OpenAI is doing with my information, because they will read the result from the SQL query. or do I want to keep it here tight? But then you need a really powerful machine to run the
Yeah, that
models.
was the question. How big is the game? Because I think it's not acceptable for any company to upload my data to someone else.
When you pay, they promise that they won't use the data, but I'm not sure. You have seen how things go when they promise that kind of stuff. But to run this kind of things, you have to have a powerful PC. You have to have a GPU. That means a graphic card running that. Because if you try to do it with just the CPU, it takes a lot.
Give an example. How long did it take on your local machine?
You saw the video. When I ask something, going from iDempiere and coming back, it takes less than 5 seconds, I think.
That was locally.
Everything was local. Yeah. When you
So
know,
I think the whole thing is about future. I don't think I want to use that now, but I want to work on that because we may use it in 2 years and they will not hallucinate anymore. And I think in 2 years we will have a special processor in every machine that helps doing it. And I think that's usable now. Slow but usable.
it's not really slow. You ask, and it takes less than 5 seconds to get an answer. I think that's okay.
But there is also compromise because we are using AWS, and we are using it maybe 10 years ago, quite a lot. But a long time we are using just RTS, SC2. We are moving to cloud from the many new services, and I recognize, the AWS has Bedrock, for example, and it's very good because all services like ChatGPT and other services, what is the side effect? It's very simple. You just pay 20 euros, but you get back a stupid service because they are limit your usage because environmental questions, economic questions. So many times applications are limit your responses and not so good. Like ChatGPT too. And the Bedrock, you pay for tokens. So you have a CLI, one line of command, and you can do anything with it. You can send a prompt, you can upload the knowledge base as you want. You can send the model, and this Bedrock will be learn your data, like technical, documentation, and others, and will use those. And you just pay for tokens, and you will be not limited.
Just in mind.
So,
regarding the cost, correct? When the DeepSeek model are released, correct? I check for the hardware requirement, and I check at that time what is the normally cost of the CPU, and it comes like 15,000 euro. That the CPU cost. Okay, and other thing is like there are two parts in AI. One is like generating result, and another is training model. So when we are thinking about the training model, it's require very high power CPU and GPU. But when we want to use that model, once model is built, correct, then when we are using it, it's require very less power. Okay, so
training is
obviously the
expensive.
training is very expensive, and whatever if you want to reduce the cost of every if you want to we need to feed a very less informations, then what we have to do, we have to build a knowledge base and train our model with that particular knowledge base. Then only your conversation will be short because it has all the knowledge compiled into its model. So it is different, and the middleware solution is a RAG, RAG. So RAG is like structuring the input before feeding to the LLM.
Yes. I feel we should make a discussion tomorrow about that because many people are involved, but we will talk with Diego about it. Okay, we can take a coffee break.
Thank you
Any
guys.
questions?